I have seen great castles rise and fall. I have seen dragons breathe fire, and giants tumble from clouds in the sky. I have seen frogs turn into princes, and princes turn into frogs. I have seen a dwarf spin gold. I have seen geese lay golden eggs. I have been witness to the greatest battles ever fought, Agincourt, Hastings, and Gettysburg. I have dined with Maharajas, princesses, dukes, and emperors. I have dug for buried treasures across all of the seven seas. I have ridden elephants with Hannibal. I was at the court of Queen Victoria. I sailed with Magellan into history. I have climbed Everest and swum the wreck of the Titanic. We had such times, and there were the parties, of course, the endless parties, day after day. I was clothed in rich gowns, blues, crimsons, and rich creams. You dressed and undressed me a dozen times in an afternoon. We would dance and talk until your eyes fell heavy, and you would have to sleep. Weariness, our perpetual nemesis. I watched you as you slept, always watched you, guarded you. How can we have known such joy, watching birds from the window, walking the gardens in spring, and gathering kindling in the winter? Everything was dusted with magic, and the simplest of tasks became infused with heroism and the mythic power of a fairy tale. We transported the dull world into mystery. Nowhere was hidden from us. All of history our playground. We travelled its wonders together. What you did not know, you invented. Anything that can be thought, I have enacted, all with you, my beloved, all with you, my loving mistress. Our days were not metered by the pendulum of the grandfather clock and its ominous hourly lament. Our time was a gust of summer wind, the opening of flowers in the morning sun, the flick of a cat's tail, dew on spider's webs, rime on a shadowed sundial, the gradual slowing of a spinning top. Our time was crayon and chalk, not pen and ink. It was erased and reformed 1,000 times within an instant, and an afternoon might last 3 months or be gone in a blink of tearful eyes. It was the day that you found me, that you gave me my name. Your father thought it odd and tried to dissuade you. We knew it was right. We knew I was destined for greatness. I knew you had chosen well, and that we would live out our days together in sunshine and bliss. I did not know that after sunshine comes the dark. I did not know that after bliss comes woe. As the years massed, you grew tall and strange, and with the years came responsibilities. Rather than our joyful hours and days, there were the tutors with their bags of books, their maps, equations, languages, etiquette, and the teachings of dust. You exchanged our world for a new one where the demands of order held sway. You watched the clock. You were diligent, obedient, and polite. The savage passion subsided as you entered the grim hallways of reality. I had waited for you patiently. I had hoped that one day you might hold me as you had before, and try again to return to our domain of dream and fantasy. One day, in the depths of a sweltering summer, 2 of your friends arrived. They carried with them their beloveds, a monkey and a bear. We all took tea, as we had in the old days. We were happy and you all laughed. Your gangly arms knocked dainty cups and saucers aside carelessly. You were becoming accustomed to new limbs, and the 3 of you tucked your long legs awkwardly and uncomfortably beneath your thighs. There was something amiss, though. Something in the way you played was forced. Your smiles were tinged with sadness rather than the enthusiasm of creation. There was a formulaic adherence to structure. You deemed at some point that the tea was over and we were hoisted into the air by your spidery fingers, and we all raced out into the scorching afternoon. We sped through the fields and soared up the hills. All our old places were revisited as your laughter was absorbed by the heavy, hot air. Frequently you all sank down in exhausted, chuckling heaps. We were thrown about in flowers. We danced through tall grasses and clambered upon the boughs of great trees, whose frames had known the scramble of your feet from their tiniest cautious step to their current confident clamber. We leapt from the branches and lay in the shade. In the distance, thunder. Once your energy had returned, you skipped hand in hand through the woods towards the old bridge. The trees were jittery with rooks cawing and squawking, screeching their cackling warnings to each other, or out into the mad air. Bright green leaves fluttered down around us, dislodged by the frenzied passions of the birds. Was it this storm they feared, or something more menacing? Did they sense in your gait or your forced joy that something more serious, something weightless yet terrible, was approaching? At the bridge the three of you placed us in a heap by some nettles and sat on the wall, watching the waters below. Desperate clouds of mosquitoes swarmed about you, mad with heat and hunger. Your bony arms waved about like sticks in a storm, but still you all giggled and squealed, the children still hiding somewhere deep inside your new skins. You all ran to the other side of the bridge. An argument began. You were angry. You folded your arms in that petulant way I remembered so well. Inside me I yearned for those days again, your scuffed knees, grass stains, tantrums, and the elation of snow. You lost the argument, or you relented, having learnt the necessity of negotiation. The three of you returned, you stern and regretful, the others with malicious grins. You took us to the stony wall, and perched us there in a row, looking down at the river. The thunder rolled closer and closer. The air was fresher. Rain was coming. You seized me and clutched me to you in a desperate embrace. What was happening? One of your tears landed on my hard, cold cheek. I could not cry. I could not blink. But what passed for a heart within me was breaking. I did not know why. Your friends laughed and jeered. Shaking, you placed me back on the wall. The air was a great breath held for an hour. The sky groaned its displeasure, and a flicker of bright light surged through the dark clouds above. The rain disgorged itself upon us all. The three of you howled like witches, and with a shove we were launched into emptiness. Our stuffed arms waved their helplessness. Our useless legs flailed in the rain. Our fixed stares looked on as the scene tumbled between the river, the banks, the sky, the bridge, and your three faces, looking down with torturous glee at our lifeless forms. Splash! We were in, we were under, we bobbed and rocked on the surface, rolled and swirled in the eddies, surging now with the violent storm waters. You all waved and screamed. This was our savage goodbye, was it? This was all of our past rolled into a great sacrifice? New worlds lay ahead of you, and we were no longer a part of them. It was time to move on. We did move on, racing faster than you had anticipated. You sprinted to catch up with us. I watched as you ran along the bank. You squealed and laughed and jumped and danced. You shouted my name over and over and over, urging me on, further on through the tumult. I would sink, sodden and heavy, into the green murk of the river, and then a moment later I would be thrust up again into the light, and you would cheer again. The others would pass me, and you cried out in disappointment. Your friends were running with you. They cheered us on. Their beloveds were beside me one moment and gone the next. We tumbled through the increasing currents, collided with the muddy banks. Our limbs would catch a while in tree roots, and then we would be taken again, back to the watery maelstrom. All All was grey sky, rain and muck. Leaves plucked from their branches by the sudden winds vied with us in the race downstream. Twigs, like tiny little boats, floundered and were pulled below. And then we were at the weir. You all cried out. You had forgotten the weir. Down and down we crashed against the stones and the white foam, and then under the water, carried deep into the still, wide pond beyond, and we were lost. From amongst the murk and filth, our eternally open eyes peered out to catch one last sighting of you. But there was only the grime and green gloom. No doubt you cried that night, and many more besides. Perhaps you dragged your father and mother down here to look for me, probing the reeds with long sticks. They never found me. Perhaps you wandered the banks for months, hoping to catch a glimpse of my soggy frame. You never found me. I lay there as the seasons came and went, as the years came and went. I am just a little thing, a thing made of cloth and thread. My once beautiful porcelain face and hands are crusted with filth, but yet my eyes still see, out into eternity. I see again all of our joyful hours, the colourful toys, the dolls in their house, the teddies at tea, the train on its track. That playroom comes to me as a vision of heaven. How did I fall from grace? What sin lay so dormant in me that I did not know it? Is this judgment? But my sight is not like your sight. I see all things at once, and the future erupts as easily as any other time. I see you, in years to come, standing on the same bridge where we were last together. It is night, bright with a great silver moon. You cry and cry. You cry so much it seems the river might burst its banks with the torrent of your tears. Perhaps your lover has jilted you. Perhaps your beloved father has died in the wars. These things I cannot see. As the time passes you calm and gaze into the water, the beckoning water. You resolve to cast your miseries into the river, and with them your body. You drop like a flailing animal into the flow, and in that instant do you regret your decision? I cannot know this either. Only facts are given to me, the facts of a vision. You follow the same journey I took, sinking and surging, smashing and struggling. Your body, unlike mine, is made of flesh. You bruise and break, thrashing and screaming against the flow. The roots cut and scratch. 100 lacerations etch a record of your last moments. Your fingers claw at the muddy banks. Your nails break against the stones. The current is too strong for you, though, and your ragged body is dragged back under. Your mouth fills with silt and leaves, the water surging into you, filling your nose, ears, eyes, and lungs. At the weir your bones are broken against the steps. You would feel the pain if your flesh were not as cold as ice. Once the white havoc of the course subsides, you drift out into the still water. You float there, the last sparks of life fading into the chill of the water. You bob into the reeds, and we meet again, my great love, my mistress. The last astonished flicker of your eyes sees the rotten tatters I now wear. You recognize my porcelain face caked with mud. My glassy stare will last millennia. In sad exhaustion, yours closes for the last time.